YouTube. Welcome back to Granted Gardens. My name is Melissa, and today we are continuing to process some of the stuff that's been in the freezer over the summer. So one thing that we're working on today is going to be tomatoes. I had purchased a lot of tomatoes from our local farmer this year just because last year we realized we don't have enough space to grow the amount of tomatoes that we want to can and put away. So I purchased from the farmer the ones that we wanted to can and put up. And I guess at some point when I was processing them, I gave up and I just threw a bunch of them in the freezer, which is fine and that's totally doable, but I forgot about them. So when I was going through the freezer trying to process stuff, I came across a few bags of tomatoes. So today we're going to can them. So this is what they look like right now. They're just whole tomatoes shoved in a freezer bag. I did core them and score them, which basically that means that I cut out the core of the tomato and then I sliced them an X in the bottom of them before I put them in the freezer bag. What's nice about this is that it makes them, at this point, really easy to peel. So you can just peel the skins right off. Now, if you guys know me at this point, I don't waste anything. So these tomato skins are actually not going to go in the trash or in the compost or to the chickens. I'm going to save these. So I just get another freezer bag, throw them in here, and if I get the opportunity to get to them today, I will. What I do is I use those along with other vegetable scraps to make a vegetable broth. And if you have bones or whatnot left over from, any kind of meats that you ate recently, you can also toss them in and make it more of a bone broth. But those tomato skins carry a lot of flavor still, and there's no point in throwing them away because they can really make a really good flavorful soup broth. You can also, I've also done it where it's just heavily tomato skins and it turns into more like a tomato soup, so don't throw your skins away. Now, I usually just cold pack, or I guess, raw pack my tomatoes. Like, I don't usually heat them up before I can them, but because these were frozen, I'm going to do the hot pack method so that I'm sure that none of them still have frozen bits or the centers aren't frozen still. So basically what I'm doing is just tossing my tomatoes in that pot back here. We're going to bring them to a boil, let them go to a boil for 5 minutes, and just make sure that they're nice and toasty before we can them. So we ended up with about 1/4 of a bag of tomato skins, so I will save those for soup. And then we got to a little under halfway of our pot. I would say maybe 1/3 of the way of our pot. So we'll just turn this on and heat it up. This time of year is definitely the time that if you have any kind of a garden, it's processing time. That's all we're doing. Mika's playing with her toy. It seems like it's all I've been doing since the wedding, which is okay because I'm happy because we're putting stuff away. But I went through, did some banana peppers the other day. I did some actual banana bread because we had frozen bananas in the freezer. I'm just trying to clear out freezer space that is for stuff from the garden that can easily be canned. So I also have some broth that I put together the other day and relish that I made from our green tomatoes. So we're getting there. We're getting there. I mentioned about the soup that if you have any kind of bones, to make sure you incorporate them because they're going to bring a lot of nutrients and flavor to your broth. For Tyler's birthday, I actually got him tomahawk steaks, which was the first for both of us, I think, to have them at home. And the bone on it was like this long. I'll see if I can put a picture in here because it's great. And so I was like, oh my, at first I was like, man, because they charge you by weight. But I was like, I don't have a problem with that at all. Like, I'm going to make soup out of that. So that's what that broth is that you see over there. It's like the fat that we cut off the steak and the bones from the tomahawk steaks. So another thing that's heavy on the to-do list is to get through herbs, because once it starts cooling off and the nights start going into the low 50s or high 40s, a lot of your tender herbs, like things like basil, are going to start turning black. They're going to get little black spots on them. So I went out and I harvested a lot of my large basils, like my big plants, and have them in the dehydrator. I do have a lot of little tiny basil plants that we started not that long ago. I am going to let them go and hope for the best, but I don't have high expectations because it's just getting really cold at night. Not much, but it is what it is. I'm always a little disappointed when I grind them down and I realize how little there is, but it's fine. And I've been adding to our collection over the summer, so we're doing all right. It's kind of hard to see in here. I think I showed you guys this before. Tyler made this for me a few years back, and basically it's just a couple pieces of wood, and then he screwed the lids to the bottom here, and this is how I store my herbs. And then at the bottom here, I just labeled them all. So here's our basil, and it's really neat because it just unscrews. And then you can take what you want. It's kind of what it looks like under there. It just makes it so easy to get to my herbs, and I love the fact that I can use full-size mason jars. It holds more. We also have one of those little spinners that has the little jars of herbs on it, but it just never holds enough. So this is more appropriate, I think, for homestead. So I usually raw pack my tomatoes. I'll just dice them in quarters or whatever and shove them in the jar. But with this method, and since my tomatoes were frozen, I decided to hot pack them. It definitely, because you have to cook it for 5 minutes, it definitely does make it more like liquidy, more soupy. So you're not going to have like those defined chunks that you usually would with a raw pack. Not a big deal. It can still be used the same way. Not worried about it. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So I usually disinfect my jars in the dishwasher just because it's easier. And I will say today I'm using Purr. I usually try to do Ball. I prefer Ball. Not for any particular reason other than that's what I usually use. That's what that's what I started out using. And I've had jars not seal that weren't Ball versus I've had less jars. I've had less issues with that when I use Ball. I don't know, you know, it happens. No matter what, I have had Ball jars also not seal. So it just depends. Today we're using Purr because I bought these in 2020 when we had the jar shortage. It was all I could find. But we are getting down to the wire. We are like severely running out of jars. We were actually gracious enough to get jars from family for both our shower and for our wedding that we've rolled through. So it's the Purrs are coming out. This is all we've got left. So here we go. So with that, we got 3.5 jars. The half jar isn't enough for me to can, but that's okay. I'll just put it in the refrigerator. We'll use it sooner rather than later. That's not going to be hard. So per lids, instructions say to wash with hot soapy water. No need to boil ahead of time. So we're just going to wash them with hot soapy water, and then we're going to set them on our jars and place the lids. Now, these lids I don't know if I should put this out there, if I should just bless and release and not put it out there. But I'm going to say it anyways, just for the sake of doing it. I had replacement lids for Purr, but I did not separate my Purr rings from my ball rings. From what I understand, they work for both. Let's hope that they do, because I have no way of knowing which ones were Purr lids or Purr rings versus my ball rings. So I'm going to just reach into my rings and pull out three rings and hope for the best. So next I want to wipe the rim of each of my jars with a little bit of vinegar. So I have vinegar on my little pad here, and I'm just going to wipe the lids really, really well. You want to make sure that you get all of the funk off. So you want to make sure that you're getting all of the lips very well cleaned for adhesion purposes. You want to make sure that there's nothing there that will interfere between the actual lip of the jar and your lid. And vinegar is a great cleaning agent because it'll cut through not only anything that's water-based, but it'll also cut through anything that's greasy. So if you're doing things like broth or meat, it'll cut through that grease as well. From there, we're going to put our lids on and just set them on top here. And then we're going to put the rings on fingertip tight and hope to goodness. That one's not working. There we go. That one was probably a Purr lid then. I might be having to sift through lids here. Oh, that one worked well. Let me grab another one. There we go. All right. And then we're going to put them in the water bath. So here I have my water bath canner set up. I did turn it on briefly, like just a minute or so ago. This is a lot of water. It takes a long time to boil, but I figure I would like it to be at least close to the temperature of the jars, so I'm not putting the jars in cold water. From here, we're going to just pick up our jars and put them in our water bath canner. Now, here's where I'm a little bit, kind of do things by my own way. It is recommended that you fill your water bath canner, any empty spaces, with empty jars, just to keep things from bouncing around too much. I never do, and I've never had a problem. So I'm gonna just put these 3 in. Next, you just want to check and make sure that it's at least an inch over top of all of your jars, which it is. Now it's like very full. Once this starts boiling, it's going to bubble over. So since I'm further than an inch in, I'm going to take some water out of here. Then I'm just going to place the lid on top and wait for it to start boiling. Now that is one problem that I always have when I water bath can, and that's that it like bubbles over and water goes all over the place. So I always have towels available to put on the floor because it just happens. I have tried to do research on how to keep that from happening, and I have yet to find a solution. So if you have a trick, can't imagine that there is one, but if you have a trick, please share. We'll set a timer for 45 minutes. Alright, so we let it go for 45 minutes, and then I pulled it off the burner after that and let it sit for just 5 minutes. We're going to pull them out here and see how they look. Looks good to me. So we got 3 new jars of our diced tomatoes. Well, that is going to be a wrap for this video. It's time to clean up and then get started on dinner. So, as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Happy canning!